Hello and happy Valentine's Day. I'm Francesca, and you are listening to Dear Franny Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I'm glad to have you here. So, Valentine's Day, I know, is a complicated day, and it can bring up a lot of uncomfortable feelings for a lot of people who are either singled or even in a relationship. Sometimes the contrast of what the reality is of your relationship versus the big, hullabaloo of Valentine's Day can be very, very stressful for people in relationships, and it can obviously be very stressful for people who want to be in relationships but aren't. So, regardless of how you feel about Valentine's Day, I'm still sending you love today and always. And I also wanted to talk about something that I hope will resonate with any of you who feel as if though you have been settling in your love life for a long time, or your love life is not what you want it to be. Maybe you have been single for longer than you want to be. Maybe you have a history of relationships that don't fulfill you and don't speak to you, and you don't know how to break that cycle. Any challenge, particularly if it's a prolonged challenge, and whatever prolonged means to you. So if you feel like you've been spinning your wheels, if you feel like you've been trying the same things and they're not working, and even when you try new things, you seem to get the same outcomes, this is my message for you today. So the other day, I was reflecting on how I have been very fortunate to have been a person who's always really sought to manifest things in my life. Even before I knew what that word was or that term was, I was just always someone who, when I had a real desire for something, even if I didn't know how I was going to make it happen, I just had a sort of inner determination that would just activate. And I'd be like, all right, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do it. And that has given me, especially now that I'm 50, I can look back at my life and I can look at how many things I have really been that determined and that intentional to see it manifest in my life. And I was reflecting on how every time I'm at a place where there's something big, something new that I'm manifesting. So for you, if you're in that place where you're like, okay, I am ready to have the love that I want. I'm ready to have a great partnership. I'm ready to meet an amazing person. I'm ready to finally have the romantic fulfillment that my heart has been calling for. So you are calling in something new, something big, right? This is a big transformation. And what I was reflecting on, and I wrote about this on LinkedIn, and if you get my newsletter, I also wrote about it in my newsletter the other day. And it's that in order for you to go to that next level, you cannot stay exactly the same. And this is where a lot of people really get stuck, whether it is a relationship that you're manifesting, whether it's anything professionally, anything in life, whether it's getting healthy, getting in shape. I mean, New Year's resolutions is a perfect example of how so many people tell themselves like, okay, I'm just going to flip this switch. The clock is going to strike midnight on January 1st, and suddenly I'm going to be the person who wants to work out every day, or I'm going to be the person who reads a book a week, or I'm going to be the person who goes for their career dreams, or I'm going to be the person who goes out and meets that amazing partner and gets into that great relationship. And you have the ability to do all of those things, but you have to also have the awareness and the humility to recognize that something in you needs to shift in order for you to get to that next level. And it can't just be a mental thing of like, okay, I'm going to just convince myself. Like, no, there is a letting go that needs to happen to make space for something new to come in, for a new relationship to come in, for new opportunities to come in. And for that to be your new normal, something needs to shift inside of you. So the example that I gave when I wrote about this the other day was reflecting on the time, this was many years ago when I was living in Brooklyn, and many of my closest girlfriends lived near me in Brooklyn. I mean, we, I was walking distance to a number of them, and we had the best time. It was such a special time of my life. Like, I remember it with such fondness. And, we would just like, we had a group text and it'd be like, hey, anybody want to grab dinner? Oh, hey, who's around? I've got an extra ticket to the show. Or like, hey, anybody want to come over? Or it like, we were just spontaneously always seeing each other. Right. And we spent so much time together, and we traveled together, and we did, it was just an amazing time. And I remember, because not all, but most of my friends at that time were single. And I remember having this realization, because I was single also at the time. I don't know if I mentioned that. And I was ready to be in a relationship. And I had this realization that there was a part of me that, even though I wanted to meet someone and I wanted to be in a relationship, there was another part of me that didn't want to lose this moment in time with my friends. I didn't want to lose the solidarity that we all had as being these, young, single, professional women in New York City. I didn't want to be now, oh, well, we're not going to invite Franny because, she's booed up and she's probably not going to come anyway. Or, oh, she's with her man, or just the way that we can kind of like just sort of preemptively write people off sometimes when they're single and you're not single, or when they're not single and you are, right? And so I had to really face that and recognize like, oh, there is a grief that is associated here. Because in order for me to allow in this new thing, this new relationship that I'm calling in, I'm going to have to let go of my attachment to everything staying the way it is right now. And this is a small example, because that was a little bit more easy to observe, that resistance that I had. But sometimes our resistance is a little bit more deeply rooted, and it comes to what we believe about ourselves, and it comes to fears that we have about ourselves. And, well, I don't get to have that, or who am I to have that? Or even, something that's come up with clients so many times, more times than I can count throughout the years, is people saying, well, I've been single for a long time and I want to meet someone, but also like, I don't want to have to move, and I don't want to share my space, and, I want to do things my way. And I'm like, and I always say to them, I'm like, okay, well, there's an inner conflict here, right? Because if you want everything to stay the same, and for you to have the same autonomy and amount of time to yourself and do everything the way that you want to do it, and you also want to bring another person into your life to co-create a life with them, those two things can't happen. So are you willing to let go? Are you willing to say goodbye? Are you willing to say, okay, you know what? I guess I'm not going to have as much time to myself if I call in the type of partnership that I really want. I'm not going to be able to do everything my way all the time if I really want to call in the kind of partnership where we are co-creating a life together. And I had to say that for myself years ago. And I said, okay, you know what? I am not going to have as much time to spend with my girlfriends at the drop of a dime, any day of the week, if I'm in the type of relationship that I want to be in. So yeah, things are going to have to change. And I had to be okay with that. I had to accept it. I had to give myself that permission. And I had to allow myself to be sad, right? So I'm calling this like, this is the grief, the unspoken grief of manifesting, because you have to let go of something in order to let something new in. That is always the case. Just as if someone was an aspiring actor and it was their dream to be on television or be in movies and to be famous and to have a huge acting career. That's a huge manifestation, to go from a person who's totally anonymous to being a person who's very well known. And guess what? You're going to have to give up some things. You're going to have to give up your anonymity. You're going to have to give up the safety of maybe not, being exposed to people's judgments and opinions of you. You're going to have to maybe relationships in your life that you had before you became famous are not going to be able to go with you to that next level, for instance, right? And so there's so many levels of things that we might need to release in order to get to our next level. And I believe that it's worth it, right? If your heart is calling you to something, we are all here to evolve and to grow. We're here to grow in our ability to love and to be loving, to receive love, expanding our capacity. So yeah, sometimes, you're not going to have the same friends. I have the same friends, by the way, but in this particular instance, well, not all of the same friends, but most of them, right? You're not going to have the same friends, or maybe your relationships are going to be different. And maybe you are going to have to be the quote bad guy because you're going to have boundaries with people who aren't used to you having boundaries, and they're not going to like that. Maybe there are going to be people who look at you and say, oh, you're no longer relatable, or who do you think you are if you have that? Yeah, that absolutely might happen. And I want you to look at that. I want you to face it and to say, okay, I understand. I'm willing to let go of what can't come with me to this next level, because it is worth it, because this is what I'm here to do. I'm here to grow. I'm here to expand, because you will adjust and things will become a new normal. And then there'll be another level and another level and another level, right? And so I think this is an important reminder, especially on Valentine's Day, which can bring a lot of emotion up, and a lot of judgment, and a lot of shame, and a lot of, just questioning of like, why can't I have that love? Why can't, I want to have a date on Valentine's Day. I want to do these romantic things. I want somebody to declare their love to me. It's normal if that's what you're feeling today. And also, I invite you don't deny your feelings, but also to start to go a little bit deeper and say, okay, first of all, do I need to expand my awareness and my consciousness around love? Is there something that I'm not seeing? Am I being too limited in my thinking? Have I been thinking the same thoughts and ruminating on the same thoughts and situations over and over again? And is that holding me back? And really setting an intention that you are ready to expand that consciousness. You are ready to see what it is that you haven't been seeing up until now. You are ready to call in a higher level of love. And when you set that intention, you're going to start to get evidence. Things are going to come up. And things might come up like, your exes are now coming out of the woodwork, or, you meet somebody who's non-committal, but they're really sexy. And you're like, oh, wow, I see this. This is the old pattern that's showing up again. And that's going to be then your opportunity to say, I see what's happening. And I've already set the intention. I'm going to the next level. So I'm not going to do the things that I've always done. I'm not going to go back into that pattern. I'm not going to go back to that person who's already shown me that they're not capable of co-creating the kind of relationship that I want. And I know this is not always, easy to do. Like, there's a lot of self-responsibility and awareness that is required for you to really transform and to transcend and to go to that next level of your love journey. But that's what you're here to do, and it's worth it. It is worth it. As somebody who's done it, I'm just giving that one example. Trust me. I've had to do it again and again and again. And, and the reason this was like, kind of like this aha for me the other day was like, oh, right. I always forgot. You got to let go of something. I have my book is coming out in a couple of months, How to Find True Love. Pre-order it wherever you get your books. Thank you very much. And, I have high hopes for this book, and I set out to write this book for a reason. I didn't do it just to write a book and be like, oh, I wrote a book and pat myself on the back. I wrote this book because I want it to positively impact a lot of people's lives, right? I wrote the book because I want people to read it. I want a lot of people to read it. I wrote the book because I do want to have an impact on dating culture and the way that we date and the way that we form relationships. Like, I have lofty goals for this book, right? And so I had to recognize again, like, oh, wait, I'm at a place right now where there's some things that I've got to let go of in order for me to get to this next level that I am manifesting in my career. And, oh, right, this is how it always works. And so there is some sadness, even to say goodbye to a previous version of yourself. There is some sadness involved. That can be a grieving process. And it's not that you are going to be a totally different person. You're still going to be yourself. The core of who you are remains. But ways of doing things and habits and ways of thinking, yeah, those things cannot come with you. Not if you want to go to the next level. And so, as humans, we all crave comfort and familiarity. And obviously, we all resist change. If we didn't, then as soon as we wanted to say, be a person who goes to the gym every day. We would just snap our fingers and we would be that person. If we all of a sudden wanted to be a person who was really good at saving and financial planning, we would snap our fingers and we would just be that person. If we wanted to be the person who read a book a week or a month or whatever that goal is for, someone hypothetically who might be listening to this, right? You would just snap your fingers and be that person. So we have to always recognize that there is something within us that it may not feel easy to change, but you do have the power to change it. And also, sometimes that change that we're seeking is not this huge 180-degree thing that we might think it is. It might be as simple as recognizing, there is a part of me that resists partnership because I am hesitant to letting somebody fully be in my life and to have to share and to have to compromise. And, that is a little scary. And that is going to be a new challenge for me, but okay. It's worth it. I'm accepting that challenge, right? I'm ready for that challenge. And so that's what I want you to really think about and set that intention for yourself today, which is what challenge at that next level that I am manifesting, that I'm aiming for, what challenge am I willing to embrace, knowing that I can handle it? Because you can. A lot of these things, especially when it comes to relationships, these are skills, right? And so, there is a skill at being more forgiving. There is a skill at being more compromising. There is a skill at being more vulnerable. There is a skill at being more comfortable with showing up as your authentic self and letting someone really see you and love you for who you truly are. Yeah, that can be really scary, but you can do it. You can absolutely do it. And it's so worth it to do it. So I really want you, again, if you're feeling upset today or triggered today, or any day, even if you're not listening to this on Valentine's Day, it's just the day it's coming out, but this episode will be around for a long time, right? So I just want you to think about that for yourself. What is that challenge? What is that story, that resistance that's going on inside of me that's telling me that I want it, but I can't have it, or I want it, but I don't know if I can handle it, or I want it, but then what if I lose it? Because the reality is if you fall in love with an amazing person today, that relationship may not last forever. But does that mean that it's not worth it? And does that mean that you can't handle it? Because eventually you will have to say goodbye, even if you both live to be 100 and have an amazing life together. One day you're going to have to say goodbye. Yeah, that's a reality. But is it worth it? I say it's worth it. And so that's something for you to decide for yourself. Face that fear, face that challenge, ask yourself, is this worth it for me? And if your answer is anything about, well, I can't handle it, I really want you to question that, because even that feeling of you can't handle it, that could be the only thing that is actually stopping you from manifesting the relationship that you want. Is that belief that you can't handle it. And if you just start to chip away at that belief and you allow yourself to expand into the next version of yourself who inevitably has the love that you want, then suddenly you're like, okay, you know what? I can handle it. If and when that day comes, I can handle it. I am here to grow in love, and this is part of my growth journey. So I hope that all makes sense. And I hope that inspires you to maybe reframe some of the feelings that are coming up today, and also just some of the love goals that you have for yourself right now. Love is so worth it. It is so worth taking, I don't want to say that risk, but because risk I don't even think is the right word, but putting in that work and that effort to look at ourselves. Speaking of work and effort to look at ourselves, it is not too late to join my True Love class series. Our first class is February 15th, but all the classes will be recorded, and we have classes going through April. So everything is going to be recorded. So even if you're listening to this after February 15th, you can still sign up, and you'll have access to all of the replays through the end of 2025. So check that out, link in my bio. You can also go to my website, francescahogi.com/classes. You can also check out my book on my website and lots of other things. So want to make sure you have that information. Happy Valentine's Day. I love you. I hope that you know how loved you are, how special you are, and how great your capacity for love truly is, regardless of any appearance or illusion to the contrary, you can get there. You can expand and you can grow in love. And listen, there's no finish line. I'm sitting here speaking very authoritatively, I know, but trust me, I'm still growing in love. I am still growing, and I hope that I will be for the rest of my life, because that's what we're here for. All right. Thank you for being here with me, for taking some time out of your day. Please take good care of yourself, and I'll be back next week with another episode. Okay, till then, goodbye.